Welcome to the first episode of the Activate Your Soul Potential podcast with Tia Marie. I am your host, and today we are going to talk about the big boom. So, this podcast episode is all about intentions and the power of the soul journey. So, inside of this quick podcast episode, I just want to tell you a little bit of story about where I started. And I'm going to relate this back to soul-led entrepreneurship, meaning that you are somebody that is here to do big legacy level work from the potential that lives inside of your heart. So this looks like you've got a big dream, you're showing up online, maybe you have a coaching business, maybe you have an inspiration, maybe you're seeing visions of what you can become, and you've made the decision at some point in your life to step away from the way that you were living and being in your career, in your relationships, with your money, everything, and you are committed to a different way forward. This happens so often in our lives, and it's something that happened to me over a decade ago when I ran up against a massive wall of burnout in my past career and realized with great ironic with great ironic perfection that I had created a life for myself that I wasn't super happy living. And to my bewilderment, what I felt in that moment of deep realization was, how is it possible that I ended up here, considering the fact that I am actually really good at getting to where I want to go? So in my prior career, in my prior relationships, in the places that I chose to live, and the way that I chose to live my life, I've always been a fairly focused, goal-oriented, step-by-step, quote unquote, logical person. I had big dreams and I went for them. And what surprised me was that at the end of achieving all of my goals, checking everything off of my to-do list, making the multi-six-figure salary, owning, businesses that brought in millions of dollars a year in revenue, being creative, starting projects, starting missions, being on what I would have called a purpose-driven life, or living in a purpose-driven life, I was not feeling like I actually knew who I was. So how is that possible? And this is really the fork in the road that I see that happens when a lot of people kind of tell their true and real hero stories when it comes to transformation in their lives, where they just realize that the way that they've been doing things isn't working, and there needs to be a massive booming shift in perspective, that big boom, in order to start moving in a different direction. And for me, that happened. That shift actually took hold when I decided to create from what I could not see, to create from the deep emergence of spirit, of essence, of all of this, kind of brewing internal power source that rose up to kind of take me off the track that I was on and move me in another direction. So there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there, a lot of businesses, a lot of people who say that they are soul-led, that they understand what it means to be soul-led. But quite often we are defining soul-led as quote unquote spiritual, and it's not the same. It's not the same at all. So my intention when I asked to change the trajectory of my life, my intention created a doorway. And I always say that the doorway creates the destination. And I'm talking about this specifically when I'm talking about spiritual seeking, because there are many doorways you can walk through when it comes to spiritual seeking. It can be a healing doorway. It can be an archetypal doorway. It can be a relationship doorway. It can be a masculine and feminine doorway. All of these things. It can be an astrology doorway. It can be a human design doorway. It can, on and on and on. But when we want to talk about the root of what it means to be soul led, what that means is living from our limitlessness in service to our soul potential. So, what rose up to save me in those moments of just feeling like I couldn't see the path was a spark of my soul's potential, and my doorway was artistic expression. It was creativity, it was symbolism, it was something that lived beyond a human narrative. And I chose this, I would say, divinely, maybe not consciously to the level that I understand it now, but I chose this divinely because I saw it and experienced it as the most true, pure, and honest way to touch something in myself that did not have limitation. And the power of the soul journey, coming back to the topic of this quick chat, is about the power of intentions and the soul journey, is that your story grows as you grow. And if we're relating this back to soul-led business, remember that every step along the path is aligned with your greater intention. You at any point can decide to live with more nuanced intentions, with more mastery over intentions, and it will lead you in different directions. And if you understand how intention works on a deep level, it will get you where you want to go faster. But to remind you that it is very common for us as we are moving through the process of aligning to a vision that we hold for our future, or a vision, we don't even have to talk about it in terms of future. We can talk about it in terms of the now, because we can see it now. We can connect to it now. It's actually part of our field now, even if perhaps we're not living as it now. But the truth being that in order for you to move through a journey in general where you cannot directly see the path in front of you, you have to get super comfortable with the fact that at every turn, you're going to meet a new version of yourself as you become the person who can hold the massive capacity of that potential and what its promise is for you. Let's specifically relate this back to your body of work. I have said many times that my clients are people who are here to create massive bodies of work. They're here for legacy, soul level creation. And in order to sustain that on a human level, you have to continue to raise your vibration, move through the shifts, build your skills, and live a life of no regrets. Meaning, you have to understand that every step along the way, everything that you've created, every iteration of yourself, every idea that you had, every way that you related back to how you understood yourself was important along the path, but it may not be essential to the identity that you build as you move through different stages of that journey. So my tip to you today is to continue to review your work. Always go back to your work. Pump yourself up with the awareness that it is actually true that you have created some incredible programs, you've created some incredible content, you've created some incredible tools. Have the courage to make it real in yourself, meaning continue to show up for the repeated success of nurturing everything that you've created, and remember who you are every step of the way. What does this mean in practical terms? For me, as I stepped out into this space, I started teaching with symbolism. So I started teaching with what I called codes, or maybe what you might call sigils. And I did this as a way to bring something into shape that had essence and was indefinable. And I led journeys on this through initiations that are super powerful, that are still super powerful, that still move with me, that still, even after years of working with them, reveal themselves layer by layer as I continue to interact with them. And it's so easy to forget how awesome we are. It's so easy to forget how incredible the things are that we've really created, because as we are evolving, we are developing new skills and new tools, and that brings us into something new, right? It is so common that on a human level, our typical behavior is to always like want to move on to the next thing, to grab the next shiny object, to, learn the new skill, to tell ourselves that something is missing and we need to grab onto the next thing. And, that's going to be the thing. And there is a two-part truth to this. The next thing is the thing, and the thing that you've already created is also the thing. And so learning how to hold space for both and, really investing in your own magic. Like if you're going to consume magic, get yourself into a place where you are supported in understanding what that is and go back to that time and time again. I just want to say that I am so passionate about the work and the conversations on what it means to actually live as our soul potential. I'm really, really excited about moving forward in this conversation. I've got some really great stuff coming up, some live containers coming up. One is my mastermind called The Calling, where I am helping people who resonate with this message commit to a year-long cycle of learning how to study within themselves the science of soul-led creation. So you get access to really groundbreaking, powerful programs, core tools, daily, monthly, weekly cycles. Learn how to tap into like what I would call the spherical wisdom of the soul, meaning the orbits and the cycles that we activate in our lives through intention to kind of move up, to ascend, to expand, to evolve. And you get business support, coaching within that group context, and a community that will just really take it all to the next level. I feel like every single person who feels passionate about soul entrepreneurship, and if they are somebody who is running a soul-led business, if you feel like you have things to teach that are not somebody else's modalities, let me just put it that way, you should spend 1 year studying your own soul's magic. And you should do it as a launch pad for the things that you've already created. When you kind of implement that kind of pattern interrupt to the things that you've been building, it not only kind of wipes the slate clean, it clears out all of the remnants of distortion and illusion that we create in ourselves as we're really focusing forward into big bodies of works, and gets us back to the root, back to the seeds that we've planted, back to the landscape of our divine limitless potential, and then helps us in a really natural way to support ourselves and be challenged and inspired in community. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to put the link here in the show notes, and I look forward to seeing you on our next chat.